In this top tips video for teachers, I am going to give you my best time-saving hacks so that you can get some of your life back, so that your life is not all about teaching, but you have time to spend with your family and to do hobbies and to just enjoy life. And so let's just jump straight in. My number one time-saving hack is to batch your lesson planning. This does not get talked about enough, and I wish someone had told me this when I was starting as a beginning teacher. So what does batching your lesson planning actually mean? It means when you sit down to plan your lessons, you don't sit down and plan Monday's lesson, because to do that, you might be planning. I'm a high school teacher, so I might be planning year 7 science, then year 9 science, then year 11 science, and my head is trying to jump into and out of all of these different topics and content. For a primary teacher, I feel like that might even be worse, because you would be doing a maths lesson and then a spelling lesson and then history, and you're not even in the same subject area. And so what I mean by batching is when you sit down to plan your week, you plan all of your history lessons in one go. Or you might plan all of your year 7 classes if you're a high school teacher in one go, and then you move on and you plan year 8. What this means is that your head is in the same space for that prepping time. You're not wasting time trying to get your head in and out of different topics. It also means that your lessons are actually going to flow much easier than if you are jumping in and out. It does mean that you need to be on top of things. So it means that we're not just one day ahead of your class. And let's be honest, that is going to happen sometimes, and that's completely okay. But if you're able to get yourself a bit ahead, or you are able to use some of your non-term time to get yourself a week ahead, it means that you're going to be able to save a lot more time in the long run, and you're going to be less stressed about it, and your lessons are going to flow better. My next time-saving tip is to know when to stop lesson planning. I know this is hard because your lessons could always be better. I'm an experienced teacher, and my lessons could always be better. I could always go searching for another resource. I could spend hours changing fonts and colors on my worksheets. Is this really going to make much of a difference for your class's learning? Probably not. So how do you know when to actually stop? When is enough enough? The answer to that is when you have met the learning intention. When you've planned a lesson in which you know that your students will be able to meet the learning intention. If you're not sure what I mean when I'm talking about that, go back to my first top tips video, and I talk about setting a learning intention and success criteria there. Once you've planned a lesson in which your students can reach that, that is when to stop. You've done enough, and that means that you can move on to the next lesson. My next tip is don't set homework. Controversial, sure. And sometimes, is it necessary? Of course. But don't set something that you're just going to have to mark when it's not really going to make that much of a difference. If you've got some programs that you can use to set homework that's self-marked or auto-marked, go for it. Or if you need to set homework, then this leads into my next tip, which is get students to mark each other's work. Rather than you spending hours after class marking every individual task, get the students to mark it. This is actually beneficial for them, and it's beneficial for you. Firstly, they do your marking for you. And secondly, it helps them to be more reflective on their work. And if they know that their work is going to be peer marked, then they're going to do a better job of it. They're going to spend a little bit extra time making sure that they've actually done the task properly, because they're not going to want to be embarrassed by their peers. Does it take some training to get your students to a point where they can peer mark effectively? Of course. But long run, you have saved hours and hours of marking. Now, my first top tip was about batching your lesson planning. What are some other things that you can batch to save time? The first is report writing. If you're writing reports, you're writing comments, it will help you to get in the flow, and it will also help you to pull inspiration for upcoming report comments that you've already written. It's also really good to have a bank of report comments so that you can pull them and edit them for each student. It'll save you time from having to write everyone from scratch. The second thing that you can batch is marking. If you're going to mark an exam paper, don't try and mark the whole paper and then go on to the next one. It's faster and more efficient if you mark per question or per page, depending on the type of task it is. You get into a role, you know what you're looking for. This is particularly helpful if you're marking a whole grade level at high school and you've got a couple of hundred papers to mark. Go either question by question or go by page. This also means that you're more consistent in your marking. So from paper 1 to paper 200, your consistency will be much better than if you go if you mark an entire paper, an entire paper, and an entire paper. And the third thing that you can batch is your photocopying. If you have to do your own photocopying, then it's more efficient for you to batch it, to get all of your photocopying together, go to the photocopy room and get it all out of the way. I hope that you found this video helpful. If you found it helpful, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and feel free to share this video with your teacher friends.